A very good morning from a windy Barbican. Behind me right there is a guy called Rick. You will have seen Rick in various YouTube videos, especially if you're into the landscape and the travel side of things. And I met Rick on the Antarctica trip not too long ago. Fun fact, Rick used to do all of the editing and filming for Nigel Danson's YouTube videos. But anyway, the reason me and Rick are here today is because it's time for another interview. It has been a while since I've done an interview, and we've just happened to be at the same place at the same time. I've got a little camera on me, and I figured, why not do it now? So I present to you the photography of Rick.
So I'm Rick, and I have been a photographer, I'd say a proper photographer, for about 18 years. What I mean by that is, it's when I got my first DSLR. I always had a camera in my hand as a kid. I used to love taking pictures, making videos. Very influenced by my dad in that, because he was really into it. But I never really started taking it seriously until, say, my late 20s. I was really interested in landscape photography. I was quite inspired by the natural world and the beauty of it. And that's basically what I started chasing initially. Now it's shifted somewhat, and I've gone through loads of different jobs in photography. I've burnt out on it a number of times. I've stepped away from it. I've done more filmmaking, but now I kind of approach it as I just want to shoot the things that I want to shoot, the things that interest me. And over the last 18 months, that's been more kind of people in the environment. And as my confidence in doing that's grown, I suppose I've found myself wanting to do more and more street stuff, which is why I find myself here today, really. Toying with this for a while, and I think the best way to describe it is probably environmental documentary, maybe. It's a bit random at times, but it's trying to show, I guess, familiar scenes in an unfamiliar way, or just unfamiliar things that you wouldn't necessarily photograph, places people would maybe say are boring, and I like the challenge of trying to get good photos in those places, I guess. Yeah, so I shoot mainly with Sony kit. So I've got an A7R5 that I've had for a few years, and from my filmmaking background, I've got an FX3 as well that I do a lot of my filming on. I've also got a Fujifilm X100VI, which I've really enjoyed using over the last 2 years, just because of the size of it, easy to take out. And I've done a bit of film photography. Don't know if I want to do more of that or not, but I quite like the intentionality behind it. But I've had, I'd say, too much gear over the past few years, and I'm trying to simplify it a bit at the moment. I've spoken about that in some of my videos, but in terms of focal lengths, I used to be I'd use everything. I had the Holy Trinity, so going from 16mm right the way through to 200, but I just found I never used my wide angle, I never used my telephoto, so now pretty much everything is between 24 and 70, and most of it below 50, and I'd say 35mm, probably from using the Fujifilm, that's where I typically take most of my shots, I'd say. Depends, to a degree, I'd say. Depends what you're doing, it depends what you're looking to do. I think for the majority of people who are just doing it as a hobby, once you get to a certain level, and that level is quite low now, then no, it doesn't matter. When I say level, I mean camera level. But as you get to the top end, certain professionals will, over time, I'd say, probably get better results with better cameras, but it's marginal gains at that stage, and they are things that will only really impact those people at the top end. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I think if you're trying to build your entire body of work off cliche photos, then that might be more of an issue. I mean, it's probably not, to be honest. Like, just do what you want to do, I'd say. As soon as you start paying attention to what other people are saying about your photography, I feel like that's kind of heading in the wrong direction. If you want to shoot cliche shots, shoot cliche shots. It's hard to say that. It's not something I try and do all the time, but for that, I mean, I don't even think about it really. It's a nice shot, why wouldn't you take it? I absolutely think you can, and I think that the kind of having the belief that where you are, whether it's where you live or just where you find yourself, is boring, is really restrictive. And I kind of had a moment, how long ago was it now? Two years ago, and this sort of triggered all this, when we were on the way to Antarctica and we stopped at Santiago Airport, and I'd just been sat on a plane for 14 hours. I needed to walk around, and Santiago Airport to me looked interesting, but it's just an airport. So I took my camera and I managed to get some shots that I really liked, and that kind of made me think, oh, if I can take a photo I like here, I can probably do it anywhere. And I've just basically tried to embrace that since, and it's helped me an enormous amount, because I think what many people who have got an interest in photography struggle with is time, and time to go to the places where they want to take photos. But if you kind of embrace this, you can take photos anywhere feeling, then that kind of unlocks that a little bit. Because if you just got a camera with you on your commute, or if you go for a walk locally and you just remove that belief that there's no photos here, it's that opens it up and allows you to see the potential. So because I've embraced that, I think I've taken so many more photos over the last 2 years than in the years previous to that. In the years previous to that, I went to loads of amazing places, but I prefer my photos over the last 2 years than the ones previous to that. They mean more to me. I think it's more of a challenge. You learn more about your photography, you learn more about what you like pointing a camera at, and yeah, give me a boring place any day of the week, I think. I'd say the best thing you can do is just walk with the camera. Don't put headphones in, don't go on your phone, don't distract yourself, just pay attention to what's around you. And that's difficult to do somewhere where you've been many, many times, but if you kind of, rather than taking the same route every single time, take a different route, go down roads you've never been down before, just kind of keep wondering what is down there. And if you just repeat that again and again and again in different lights, in different times of day, in different weather conditions, you'll start realizing the potential that all these conditions can have on different scenes. And you've got to accept that most of the time you won't get decent photos. And I think that's what stops a lot of people from trying it. They just think, oh, well, it's boring, it's grey, it's rainy, whatever, I'm not going to get a good photo. But I think you tend to learn more from taking bad photos than you do from taking good ones. And that would just, the more you do it, the more you go out, even if it's just for half an hour, all those half an hours added up, all of that compounded will help you, not just taking photos in a boring location, but when you get to go to better locations as well, I think. There's not like a definitive answer. I've not got like an obsession with traffic cones, although it might seem that way. I just found that in kind of this approach of boring places and trying to make decent photos of stuff that people wouldn't normally take photos of, I noticed in that first year, I got like 2 or 3 pictures of traffic cones just on their own in places where you wouldn't normally expect them to be. I just thought, oh, that's quite interesting. Everyone knows what traffic cones are, everyone can relate to them, but sometimes you see them in places where they shouldn't be, and to me that's just kind of interesting, like why are they there, why have they been left there, how long have they been there? And that kind of just grew into something where I just thought, well, I wonder if this could become a little bit of an ongoing project. So now I'm just, whenever I see a traffic cone on its own, I try and capture it in the best light possible, try and find the best composition around it, and add it to the project. And what I'll do with this project, I've got absolutely no idea. Maybe it'll be a book one day. That's kind of me with a pipe dream that people might actually buy it. Maybe a zine might be more sensible, but it's just something I enjoy doing, just trying to get these well composed, well lit, sometimes pictures of traffic cones. It's don't know, it's just a little challenge that I enjoy doing, really. This is something I've struggled with in the past, and I've tried both approaches, and both can be really frustrating, because I think trying to force yourself can sometimes make it worse and make you want to go out even less. But also waiting around, like, you don't know how long you're going to be waiting for, and you feel like you're missing out on stuff, and that experience is frustrating as well. Some of the best stuff I did when I was really struggling with this was be creative, but in a different way. So if I was kind of burnt out with taking photos, I was still creative, but I was doing it by making videos or by painting things or drawing or making something else. I generally like making things, and I think by trying to do something creative, it doesn't have to be photography every day. That is, to me, it's a quicker route back to wanting to pick up a camera again, than trying to force yourself out with a camera every day. 3 essential skills. Okay, I'd probably say patience is one. I am incredibly impatient. I'd say, like take this for example, where we saw that guy before walk through that scene. I don't think I'd have waited much longer had he not got there, but I don't really mean patience in that sense. I mean more long term. If you want to be a good photographer, it takes a long time, and you've got to bear that in mind. It will take years of shooting all the time before you get to that point, and I think a lot of people are quite impatient around that, and they almost give up too soon. The next one, kind of composition, is without a good composition, without being able to compose a shot properly, no matter what else is going on, no matter what your skill with the camera or what the light's like, if your composition isn't on point, then it's really hard to make a decent photograph. And the third one would be doing it as you want to do it, and keep it fun, because I've done photography jobs that have completely burnt me out in the past, and they've made me not want to pick up a camera for years at a time, which is obviously very detrimental to getting good photos. And that came about because I was taking pictures of stuff I just didn't want to take pictures of, and I tried to turn it into something that went against what I wanted from it. And I think you've got to stay true to what you want to point a camera at, and like I said before, pay no attention to what anyone else is saying, because I think if you're not shooting for yourself, if you're shooting for other people and you're doing that all of the time, you're just going to end up hating it, and that's not what anyone wants. So yeah, patience, composition, and shoot for yourself. And I could give loads more, because there are so many things that go into photography that you have to build up over the years, but yeah, they're the main 3 I can come up with today. I suppose there's different elements of it you can consider. There's the generative stuff, which is essentially producing something that was never there, and that I've got no interest in at all. I don't see myself ever using that at all. If something didn't exist, I don't want to imagine it up with a computer. But I do think there are AI tools out there that can massively help. I'll give an example of upscaling resolution of images. And some people will say, well, you're using an AI tool to do it, so it's not real and stuff. But if you've got a scene and you've got someone shooting it on, say, a 4 megapixel sensor, and there's a guy next to you shooting it on a 60 megapixel sensor, the difference between them is that size of sensor. And if the guy with the 4 upscales it to the same size, why is doing it with a computer any different to doing it with a sensor in those regards? So I think there's certain tools that are potentially going to be really helpful like that. AI denoise is another one. I think, again, like the newest cameras have got really good high noise thresholds and can deal with noise a lot better than older ones, but how's that any different than running your image through denoising software? That's kind of my stance on it anyway. And then in terms of more general AI, I run my own business, and using AI to help me with that has been massively beneficial in terms of organisation and building systems and stuff like that. And that's enabled me to kind of consider and do things that maybe I wouldn't have done before, but from a creative output, from a photography output, from a video output, from a writing emails and things like that, output, I think that should stay human-led. That's generally my take on it.
At this point, I want to quickly thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. I've been a paying customer way before they supported the channel and have now been using their services for over 5 years. Squarespace is at the center of my online presence, and it's what drives my blog, portfolio, store, and newsletter. I appreciate the simplicity of managing everything from a single app because it saves me time and gives me peace of mind knowing that I can make changes or deal with issues from my phone. If you have a business, a side hustle, or simply want your own little corner of the internet to host your photography or build something big, Squarespace offers all the tools you need across all devices. If you want to learn more, get a free trial and then 10% off your first purchase, use the link in the description or enter code RomanFox at checkout. Thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring, and thank you for watching.